I'd like to call to order the Proctor City Council meeting for Monday, May 16th, 2022. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll perform roll call at this time. Councilor Benson?
Present.
Councilor Reuter?
Present.
Councilor Johnson?
Present.
Councilor DeWall?
Present.
Mayor Ward is also present. Let the minutes reflect all guests and others in attendance, Administrator Rich and Attorney Bray. Looking for a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes from Monday, May 2nd, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda. There are a few additions and subtractions to be added. 4E, property easement, we'd like to add. We'd like to remove 6D, and that is the commercial building inspector. We'd like to add 6G, Highway 2 project, and 6H, sand salt facility bid. With those changes, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So move.
Councilor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. At this time, we'll take comments and suggestions from the citizens present or is the phone working? Or watching via YouTube. The public comment suggestion period of the meeting is when City Council offers a time for everyone in attendance or watching from home to address the City Council. Once we move on from the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, members of the public will no longer be allowed to address the council unless the mayor acknowledges you. As a general rule, the council will listen to all comments but will not comment on or respond to any comments made by speakers. The council will not engage in dialogue, however, any council member can ask questions. If you'd like to address the City Council during public comment and suggestion period of the meeting, please come forward to the podium or dial 218-628-6289. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the meeting minutes. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the City Council will be prohibited from using obscene, profane, or threatening language or boisterous conduct that disrupts the meeting or the security of the public. Is there anyone at this time that is interested in participating in the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting? We'll give that a minute. Hearing none, we'll move on. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to 4A, Clerk advises Council, April 19, 2022, TAC meeting materials. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to admit that I have been lax in going to these meetings, but I do check the meeting agendas and the minutes. And the one I noted in the last meeting agenda was that they approved a bid to Bolton and Mink to complete a comprehensive I-35 corridor study. So we will make sure that we are a part of that study and active and engaged in the planning process over the next year.
Thank you. And just to add to that, Administrator Rich, we got our packet for tomorrow or Wednesday's meeting, And it is on there as well, the I-35 corridor project update, so any new information I'll pass along.
In the meeting that I attended in the mayor's absence, they did talk about the possibility of an interchange on Uggstead and our desire for that. And that got me thinking that when you go up and down Highway 2, you see nice designs at not Cambridge, North Branch, Pine City, where they have a nice little wrought iron or perhaps the logo lights. They have them up on the range, and I think that would be something we should be looking at and considering as we're rebranding the city for the Boundary Avenue Bridge. Because if we don't do it, you know that Duluth is probably also thinking about it as well. And we don't want a Duluth symbol on the Boundary Avenue.
No, and I've noticed that too. Columbus has a real nice one heading down to the city, so.
Yeah,
That would
Columbus
look
right
nice.
across the,
Yeah. Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4B, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a project that PUC, Proctor Public Utilities, is on. They're looking for placement of electrical vehicle charging stations, and the I-35 corridor, specifically Proctor, was named in a location for this grant. It is probably going to be a project that's going to move rather quickly. They have an August 1st deadline to meet to come up with this plan. Commissioner Bingaman and Shar Jones have been on top of the committee the meetings and the workshops to make sure that Proctor has its best foot forward for a potential charging station of some sort in Proctor.
Thank you. And I had a brief conversation with Eric Forsman as he sits on Minnesota's Power Economic Development Team, and we talked about this in brief, but he's well aware that we're interested as well. So, any other discussion regarding that?
Ms. Mayor? I
Counselor
think
Benson.
we did discuss EV station a number of years ago when Minnesota Power was having a grant. We didn't get one, Floodwood did. And I know at one point American was looking at putting in an EV station, but management changed a couple of times between that, so I don't think they don't have it. But I would have liked to see I-35 possibly, but also something downtown or even at this facility.
So my understanding on this, Administrator Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're able to get up to 5 electric stations. 4 of them have to be kept together. 1 of them can be put elsewhere in a separate location. Is that correct?
That's correct. They have to be within a mile of I-35 as well.
And is this a grant or?
This is a grant. There is a 80-20 split with the community, but MnDOT is seeking other funding. It's to meet that 20% local community match.
Okay, so this is a MnDOT. Okay. Is this from monies from that Volkswagen settlement?
No,
or-
they don't say where the funding source is from.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4C, Commercial Building Inspector. Administrator Rich.
The City of Proctor has contracted with the City of Hermantown for commercial building inspection services. And the City of Hermantown's building inspector, Mr. Jim Rich, has resigned from his position with the City of Hermantown. He is, however, willing to work as a contractor with Proctor as well as several other communities that he has. We have him named as our official building inspector right now. I don't think that there's a need to, and Attorney Bray agreed to rename him as a building inspector, whether he's working under the umbrella of the City of Hermantown or as an independent contractor. His fee structure is going to change, however. Under the city of Hermantown was billing us per hour, and Mr. Rich will now be under a monthly retainer fee. But it's a per hour inspection, so it's $50 per inspection, up to $500 a month. Last year he did, I'm sorry, Mayor, I gave you those numbers. He did 16 hours of work in Proctor for billable at $60 an hour.
That was last year. The new bill would be $50.
50.
50 an hour up to 500.
To 500, up to his retainer.
So 500 regardless of whether there's.
I don't believe so. I don't understand his letter to say that.
I just think of a retainer as that's not bad. Thanks, Ted.
I did originally believe that, but our phone conversations have been something different. But I can verify it. Your options are to continue with Mr. Rich, and then we explore other options at the end of the year when you appoint your new officials. He did have one other independent contractor that he would give us names for. I will have to say that the city of Hermantown, the current city of Hermantown building inspector, Adam Sheminsky and Jay Boyson, are nervous about going out for RFPs for building inspectors because there's not a lot of inspectors out there for these type of services.
And there is a timeline on that, correct? If we were to name a new one, we'd have 15 days to find someone, otherwise we couldn't.
Right. We
Submit
need to
permits.
appoint a new one to the Department of Labor and Industry within 15 days.
I understand all of that. Where I'm getting to the point is it's not to necessarily go for RSPs, but to cover our overhead. And if we're going to pay a retainer of 500 plus the hourly, then we need to restructure our ordinance or fee schedule for the permitting process.
Agreed. And we just got this from Mr. Rich today. So Finance Director Leslie Brunfeld, myself, and Megan can look over the numbers. Megan is the one that reports those building inspection fees that go to the state where we justify our building inspection fees that we charge our customers.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding that? You're not looking for a motion on that, are you, Ms. Rader? No.
Unless you feel otherwise, if you'd like to go a different route.
No, I'd like Troy or Councilor DeWall's question answered on the retainer fee, but I think it's in our best interest to continue on using Mr. Rich for the time being anyway, until we get that question answered.
Okay.
Councilor Johnson.
Administrator Rich, recommendation?
I would recommend retaining the services of Mr. Rich, but we will present those numbers to you so you have a better idea if there's a budget amendment or a fee adjustment, building inspection fee adjustment that needs to happen.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'm just doing the quick math, but if I'm right and it is a $500 retainer, that's $6,000 a year versus what we paid last year at $1,000 a year. And that doesn't include the hourly at $50?
Last year was 60, this year's 50.
Right, but if you take 16 and 68, we had the luxury of paying by the hour, which was $1,000. If we pay a retainer fee plus we have to pay the hourly, I mean, that can go 8 times that dollar amount that we're used to paying, so that's why I bring it up. But
Well-
I'm not opposed to going with him because we really don't have any other, I just want to make sure we're covering our fees.
Yeah, and in the meantime, until we get those answers, council all right with moving forward with Jim? Mr. Rich, he's already listed as our building inspector. We'll keep him in place until those questions are answered. Right? Does that work for you, Councilor DeWall?
Yeah, because we're treating him like a contractor, so he would have to give us some kind of insurance, I would imagine.
And, excuse me, but we're only talking commercial here, correct? Where Mr. Boyson would still do,
Correct.
yeah, so, okay, I got you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Doesn't he still do plan reviews and things?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like a lot that if we were paying $60 an hour last year, I could see us paying a $500 retaining fee and that's it for the month. But $500 plus 50 per hour, I mean, what are we paying them a retainer for, just so we can call them up, or?
My fear is that it's a minimum catch 22, so it's, if we go more than 500, we pay up to 500, but if we only have one permit, 1 hour that month, we still pay 500.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
So that's why I'm not opposed. I think they have a great working relationship, but if that is the case, then we need to readjust the fees.
I'd be happier to pay them $75 an hour, just an hourly fee, but maybe a little bit more than we were paying them before, but I don't know how open he is to that kind of negotiations.
Well, we can get answers and find out.
Yeah,
Find
so
out what it
I
is.
agree with Troy, we need to cover the cost, but I don't know how much we want to start jacking up our building fees and things. You know, we'd like to try to keep those as low as we can, because it just helps encourage people to do more.
Yep, absolutely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4D, payroll reports, My View, Point Access. Administrator Rich.
Thank you. This was requested at the last council meeting, Mayor, that payroll reports should start coming back to the council after our system conversion. And I think that we can even do better for you. We can give city councilors access to My Viewpoint, which is the cloud-based system that we have, and you would be given a username and login where you can view invoices, you can view budgets. You can't make, and obviously you won't have the access to make changes, and that's not what this program is for. It's just for viewing. You can look at all invoices, you can look at payroll reports. We spent the last 2 weeks reviewing that My Viewpoint to make sure the access that we're giving you is public information and can be secure on your computers, and it is. So with that, you'll be getting a username and a login from Leslie in the next several days, and you have so much time to activate that so you can have access to the My Viewpoint. And then you will be able to have access to complete financials if you wanted to, and we'll do some brief training of how you maybe look up an invoice by a vendor, how you find the payroll reports. Those will come in a series, like maybe like email trainings to you. So, yeah, what's your thought?
Excuse me, is there ever going to be a summary? I mean, we used to get, and sometimes it was behind because payroll lands when payroll lands, and I understand that, but we used to get like just a 2-line payroll summary. We used to get like an overtime report for the police. I'm just kind of torn between, yep, I can go in on my own time, but as a group, I feel like we need to approve the bills and any and all expenses, which wages is an expense. Maybe I'm wrong, but we approve all the rest of the bills. Yes, I know we contract and there's set things, but I don't know per se, did we have a significant case and all of a sudden we have 80 hours of overtime on the police department, or we had a snow situation and there was 60 hours, we're spending taxpayers' monies, and I just think it fiduciary of us to have a summary form under payroll that says, since our last meeting, this is the payroll amount.
So we're hoping to put links to that information right in your council packet. So when you receive your council packet electronically, you can click on a link and get that information. The way I understand it is council does not approve payroll since it's a cost that's already been incurred. You can't, how do I put it? You can't pay people and then say, no, we don't approve this payroll, but you can have access to overtime records and time cards so you can get control if expenses, if payroll starts getting out of control or you feel it is. That's where you have the access to that information get that back under control, should you feel it's out of control. That was my understanding of payroll and government. Maybe. But yes, we do hope to put links right in your council packet, so it's a one-click, and you've got, and then you can dig, if you click on the payroll link and you see something alarming with overtime, you can dig deeper into it, into the My Viewpoint. I think you're gonna find you're gonna get more information in My Viewpoint than what you had in your council packets in the past.
My only concern is, under this environment, a public council meeting, we're approving all the bills. I don't treat wage any different than liquor store bill, or golf course bill, or street department bill, AT&T bill. And so I guess I would leave it up to our attorney because I think it is our responsibility to watch those.
Here's, yeah, it's your responsibility to watch them. The way I look at it is sort of like the way Jess looks at it. It's a routine, regular administrative type payment. However, if you've got significant changes, you probably should approve those significant changes. That's really tough to say when it shifts from routine to significant change, but you'll know it when you see it. But I think the typical regular payroll is something that is administrative. You don't necessarily have to independently approve every meeting.
And I guess I will wait for the one click from the agenda packet.
See what that brings.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4E, property easement. Administrator Rich.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this on for this, so you can see.
You need lights off or something?
We'll see what comes up here.
Yeah, nobody's gonna see it with that head in the way.
We can turn them down a bit. It's not coming on yet.
See something.
Turn this down, just maybe
Starting
ease
to
this
come
in.
on.
I see something.
Yeah, there we go.
And I am sorry for adding this on, but this property is for sale, not this one. This property is for sale, and it's generated a lot of interest recently. One of the latest questions was, so it's this piece of property right here. Potential buyers have looked into it, and MnDOT has said that they will not give them access on this corner because it's a blind corner. So therefore, they're landlocked in. One of the buyers has asked if the city would ever consider an easement off of St. Louis River Road for this person to gain access to their property. This isn't the only call we've received, and so I'm just asking you if, I'm not asking you as a formal yes or no, but would this be something that you would consider if a formal request came through? Like I said, we've gotten several calls on it, and we'd like to be able to give potential buyers some direction on this.
Well, it might not even, my understanding is that the old cartway proceeding statute that generally, you see townships use it from time to time, actually applies to municipalities too. They could probably get a cartway through there to that property under the statute. Let me take a quick look at it now.
Yeah, and if you could, and I didn't know how that applied with Highway 2 frontage being there and then them being denied that. I mean, they do have access to the property off of Highway 2. They just can't get an entryway.
Okay, and that might be a, enough of a restriction that they probably could use cartway, or if they were able to, who has that property? It's our property across there, right?
This is ours.
Yeah.
It's in the
Yes.
area that she's saying that they can't sell.
Oh, we could give them an easement
The
too.
problem,
Yes.
one of the problems I see with that is that's our North Proctor Park, where we're supposed to be putting a trail system, and where the only place that 40 comes in contact with St. Louis River Road is right where we put that little 2-spot parking area or whatever that we were gonna do there, so I don't know where we would, if we wanted to have parking somewhere off of St. Louis River Road, I don't know how that would work if we gave them an easement. That's about the only place an easement could go.
Could we move our parking further into the property?
Yeah, you can do whatever
Okay.
you want there, I guess, but that's the same area where the connection with Hermantown is eventually supposed to come into Proctor for the Munger Trail. Is in that same northern part of that 40 right there. So we'd have to figure out how that would work. What bridge?
Bridge they just redid here a year or two ago.
Isn't it right,
There isn't a bridge.
right
on
here?
Now there's a big overpass where that creek runs like a river this time of year. It goes underneath railroad.
Are you talking about out further on Highway 2 where Midway goes underneath?
Just north of my property on Highway 2. Just trying to get in there, and so that's.
No, there's,
Okay, so that's in there.
yeah, this is right up on the corner. When you first go out of town, you first start to take that big hard left corner. It's right on the right side there.
Just trying to get my bearings for, because that all runs from that upper hillside. And depending on what is going to be put there, I mean, there's no sewer, no water.
No,
And they know that.
but I think we have to somehow keep in mind that it wasn't that many years ago, we had to beg to get that back from the county again because they had taken it away from us because we weren't using it for the recreational purpose that we said we were gonna use it for. So we said, give it back to us because we're gonna put a trail in there and do some things. And I think right after that, they put that parking spot up there off of St. Louis River Road just to show that we were starting to do something there. Like I say, I don't know how, that's one thing we haven't really sat down and talked much about is what's gonna happen there as far as the connection with Hermantown, because it's right in that area where Hermantown's planning on meeting up with our trail.
Old Highway 2 is not an option for them?
It ends in someone's yard.
Well, it's a shame because it wouldn't be very far to get there after that.
And I can't say that they haven't inquired about that approach either. I don't,
Seeing we own the land off of Ugstead up there too, but there's a lot in between us.
You know, this is really interesting. It doesn't really define what access is in the statute. It says that the property's got to be at least 5 acres, who has no access thereto except over a navigable waterway or over the land of others, or whose access is less than 2 rods in width, which is, a rod is 16 feet. So, in other words, if it's less than 32 feet in width.
So this is some.
That's what it's gonna say, who owns that piece?
Half an acre.
Basically, they won't give you a curb cut. Is that having no access to the property, correct? I think you could probably make a pretty good argument that it is having no access to the property. Because you have to be able to, if you're going to do anything with it, you have to be able to get in there with vehicles, et cetera. But it doesn't, the statute doesn't say that. I mean, if you want me to look into how beyond the statute it's defined, I'm sure courts have probably defined that issue as to what is access and what isn't. I'll look into it if I need to.
Looks to go up.
Yep.
You see the line coming down?
Yep.
That's our boundary line. Problem is there's a piece in between. I think that's owned by the people, that kennel up there, kennel, St. Louis River Road, I think he owns that coming down there. Otherwise, yeah, if it wasn't for that in between, we could come up our property there into that.
Go from here?
We're not using it. But
this garage is like right here. You want a buffer and to put a building in here. To me, it would seem more economical to land swap this, we take this, give them that, but then I don't know how that affects the county. And it would be a cheaper, then we don't have to worry about the trail on the north side.
So what I'm hearing is council's not opposed to having discussions about this. There may be a different way to slice it, but I think we're open to talking about it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I don't see it doesn't hurt for us to look at the options anyway, but we'd have to figure out, you know, if he does want to come across the northern part of our property, I don't know how that works with Munger Trail coming through there, but to me, it would be much easier to do like Troy's saying and have that guy somehow just continue on the Highway 2, the old Highway 2 there, and just go right up into that property.
How big is that parcel? The guy,
It was 5.56 acres or something, that little
it's got to be at
piece.
least 5 acres under the statute if he
No, but
wants
we're
to.
talking about that little piece that
Okay.
they would need to get in there. Right down at the bottom there, there's just a little
Yeah.
chunk.
Okay.
Right there. That would be an easy way to access it if they could somehow get permission to go through there.
And when I'm referencing was back when I was interim administrator, discussed. And I said you'd have to bring it up to council, you know, and I think, well, COVID and all that other stuff came up, but that might create a less expensive entrance, and it would also be helping out a Proctor citizen. And as far as the tax rolls, it would just replace, so we're not losing any of that.
Yeah, we just have to get an okay from the county to give away a piece of that little chunk on the bottom. But if we explain that we're trying to get access to this other property and it could screw up where the Munger Trail's gonna come through and the other little walking trail we're gonna make up in that area, you know, if we could do this without affecting any of that, maybe they'd be go along with it, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of different ways to discuss.
To move forward with it?
I think so, yeah.
I would.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to 6A, new business, conditional use permit, sand salt facility. Administrator Rich.
Excuse me. We did need to get, apply for a conditional use permit to put the sand salt facility underneath the power lines at the proposed location on Kirkus Street. Planning and zoning did meet, and they approved the conditional use permit. The conditions, however, were that on the east side of the property, we maintained a 100-foot buffer from any new residents or residential neighborhoods on the east side, and we're within 200 feet of the nearest property owner on the east side. So that is their recommendation to council on the conditional use permit.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the sand salt facility.
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. 6B, Club 225 payment. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Schwartzbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did give Administrator Rich some table file. I assume you guys got those. She's great. Before I give you the check for $2,250, I just wanted to talk briefly about and you know me briefly sometimes, talking about what has been accomplished and what we're planning to do this summer to acknowledge all the people who have given money that made that building a possibility. On the very top, it was, you know, we had moved it on September 15th, 2011, and I know in conversations with then Jim Roweeder and others, we thought, well, $250,000. We thought that would be enough. Turns out it was closer to $500,000 when everything is said and done with the elevator and everything else. And so a lot of people, a lot of families have stepped forward, and that's kind of what we're going to be working on and getting another set of plaque to honor those individuals. So on that first sheet, I basically say, all right, this is what we promised in the newsletter in 2011. Some of the things highlighted in yellow we did not give, like the booklet. Nobody stepped forward to make a booklet of all the stories. Hopefully someday somebody will. The Rail Club was not to be included. It will now be. And the third thing down there is, at this point in time, that is not the site of the Proctor Visitor and Tourist Information Center. Perhaps someday it will, but as of right now, it just sits with the Proctor Historical Society. So the numbers you see after that, the 144 plaques that are going up, we're pretty sure that's about the right number. We're not positive, so if somebody was to put an article in the paper, I wouldn't want to give those as exact right now. The treasurer before me is looking over the numbers. We know it's at least 144 people. Will they be in those categories or not? But we plan to have those plaques made. For those of you that aren't aware, the high school, through the Carl Perkins grant, is going to be having a new laser engraver. It's about a $25,000 piece of equipment that is going to them. We'll have them. That'll probably be their first job, is to make all of these plaques. And so hopefully we'll have a nice story about that, how the Historical Society, city, everybody gets involved and actually gets those and puts those up. That's kind of a little bit about that first page. The second page of that really just says, all right, we have to acknowledge about the $170,000. That does not include memberships. That's about how much money a little over 372 different people, anything from $5 to Coke and Pat Emberg's nearly $47,000 that were donated, that we have to acknowledge. And that's what we're going to be looking at. But we can't forget that next group, 48 donations of $256,000. You can see a little over 30 of them listed there, and how much money they came from different ones. And certainly I'm not going to go over and explain, okay, each of those, but keep in mind there are ones on there like you say, geez, Snowmobile Club, $1,138.49. What the heck is that? Well, they decided they were going to go out of business. They said, what should we do with the money? Let's give it to the museum. So there's lots of examples, countless examples of people who have stepped forward. So bottom line, $455,000. And that does not include in-kind work from people like Larry Shelton, for example, not charging for the labor, for all the work they did. Doesn't include things like when Puck paid for the lift of all the wires when we moved that. That was over $5,000 that Puck picked up for that for us. Scott Pionk paid for the sod. So it's certainly over $500,000 that has been raised at this point in time. And of course, the third page, that's just saying, it just tells us that this is multi-generational, that when a decision was made by those 18 people who signed that initial charter, that they were committed to make this happen, it really has. And so I think, you know, and maybe, again, this is the history teacher in me, it also has to go back to another sheet that's not in there, and that's a sheet that talks about Thursday, August 8th, 1963, the moving of the Yellowstone. And it's, I would be remiss if I wouldn't acknowledge the fact that two of the people who were on that committee, their sons were probably about 12, 13 years of age, not thinking about much of anything, but certainly they would go on to serve our country in the Vietnam War, and would continue to serve this community, and are, of course, sitting up there right now as part of the entire commitment that we have seen from 1963 to the present. I can't think of another community that has stepped forward to say, we will get this job done, as what I've observed in Proctor. And I'm not a Proctor person. I married into the Proctor family, I guess, but many of you are Proctor people. I get it. I now fully understand and comprehend how much the railroad meant, how much the symbiotic relationship has been with the railroad between the city, and now why would people give that much money to make that building a reality? I fully understand it and comprehend it completely. So without further ado, I want to let you know that an individual, a family here in Proctor, reading the article in the paper about the last $2,250 check I brought, stepped forward and said, we would like to give $2,500 anonymously. And if you were to know the name, you'd understand that this is a family that does like to give a lot back to the community, has been involved deeply in this community, but just wants to stay anonymous in this. By doing that, that raises the total money going back to the city of $15,400. So we're excited. We continue to get this done. We're hopefully, depending upon how things go, we hope within the next couple of months this will be paid for. Maybe somebody else anonymously will step up. I don't know. We don't know. Didn't know this was going to happen. So unless you have some questions or anything you want to say, I can just hand the check, get a picture taken, hopefully have a nice article in the paper. I've already sent the Journal some advanced information. Hope they will include in that.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Schwartzbauer? I guess I'd like to say thank you. Good work on your fundraising efforts and the almost $500,000 raised for the Historical Society. That's impressive.
Well, it's like I said, Mr. Mayor, this took an awful lot of people. So this is a small part, this Club 225, this about 30,000. It's all the people before that. It's all the businesses in town. It's all those other ones that have stepped up and says, it's Peggy. When she came in here, I remember her coming in here, she had just gotten, she said she apologized. She couldn't come in sooner because they were waiting for a tax refund. And she handed a check to the museum for $1,000. I remember that. I remember other ones. There's so many of these, so I'll take that with me. So that makes me just fully understand and comprehend all that stuff. And to you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate Labor Day 2019, or not Labor Day, Memorial Day, when I asked you to come up there and you agreed to be involved in helping us try to get that last $40,000. And for us now, we're down below $5,000. So we're excited, very excited to get that close.
Nope, it's neat. It's neat all the people that have participated, so thank you again.
Okay.
Any other comments? Hearing none?
Okay.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm surprised he's even getting this much back. He originally asked us for a forgivable loan, 20 grand, and we all kind of it isn't going to hurt us any. Keeps him having to keep coming back every year. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Appreciate it a lot.
It's not like it's in the budget or it's.
Again, Jim, thank you. That's right.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Jim.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Johnson.
I would like to forgive the rest of their loan. I'd like them to make a motion to do that.
You heard the motion by Counselor Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Second
You know,
by-
I remember when he first came to us for this loan.
Se-
And at the time, he was asking for us to give him a $20,000 forgivable loan, you know, at some point. And I think, actually, I'm surprised that they've paid as much back as they have. You know, I think it's been great, especially just in the last year and a half that I've been here, they've paid us back $4,000 or $5,000 of it. I think it's good. I think it'd be, you know, I don't think in the long haul it makes any difference to the city whether we keep getting 1,000 or 2,000 from them over the next 3-4 years. And I think it would be a good gesture to just kind of say, you know, we think it's a good deal they're doing there. It's been a lot of, you know, it's been hanging on for a long time. You guys have been trying to pay it back. You know, use your fundraising efforts from here on forward to try to make things better and improve your programming and things rather than worrying about the city.
Yeah, and
It's just my feeling.
I would agree with you, Counselor Reuter. I never said it publicly, but, you know, when they came to us with a $20,000 loan and no payments made on it yet, I was against forgiving anything until they
I
made
agree.
a true effort to pay it back. They've done a lot of good things up there, paid it back. It's a good thing for our community to have a historical museum. We can't forget where we came from, and I said if they brought it down to 5, I would entertain that option, and they're below 5, and I'm all for that. So, I agree. Any other discussion? Counselor.
Concur. I was new to the council at the time when this started, but when everyone else was getting paid and we weren't, it kind of was not sitting well with me. But I believe they've made good faith efforts and paying down and consistently making us payments. Not to play the devil's advocate, I do believe at some point in the future, it will cost the city something. Because at the end of the day, the city owns the property, and I believe the city owns the building if something were to happen with that group. But I do applaud their efforts in raising money and making a significant impact in the last 2 years, for sure. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us to 6C, Rasmussen Cleaning Service Agreement. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. We have been using Rasmussen Cleaning on a trial basis for the last several months. Just to give you some history on this, we did have city employee doing janitorial services for us. That person resigned. We looked into contracting out to an independent contractor for cleaning. At that time, we did receive some quotes and bids, and we tried another one for a while, another cleaning services. We moved on from that service. We picked up Rasmussen Cleaning Service from a local newspaper article. At this point, they are wanting to, and as Mayor requested, to enter a formal contract for cleaning services. I will note that we would have to do a budget amendment with this as well. We budgeted $24,000 for the year for cleaning service. With this contract, we would be at 41, almost 42,000. So we would be, without the budget amendment, we would be 17,800 over budget on it. The other bids in the past when we were working in came in anywhere from bids over this to bids under it. This is why we settled on this one as a trial basis. You have in the contract the work that they perform. This is for City Hall side of the building. We do have a city employee, a police department vetted employee that is doing cleaning services on the PD side of it, and it works out well because they've been fingerprinted, they have access to the police department, they have, if they're sensitive materials, she already has access to that. She's a police department employee. She puts in about 4 hours a week on the police department side. So this is for the PAC and the City Hall side of the building.
Thank you. Counselor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we do go with going from 24 to 42, how would that affect the school side?
Well, right now we're under contract with them. And we'd have, if you wanted to revisit rent or fees with a school, we'd have to do a rental or a agreement amendment to that. I think we're one more, at the end of 2023 is our next, is when the contract with the school expires.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor DeWall.
We've been averaging 3,300 every meeting, or I don't know if that's the monthly bill, but at 3,300. So I'm curious why it's higher under the contract price. And also, under the contract, there's supplies that they would be reimbursed for. It says it's kind of a double. They submit in a bill and we pay for the supplies. So it's more than the set amount that's on the contract. It's probably going to be closer to 4,000. So my question is twofold. If we're contracting for them for a longer period, why are we paying $200 more than what we've been averaging? Two, the supplies portion of it, any supplies that is used, yes, they have to get it approved by our city administrator. You know, I'm assuming that, is that trash bags, is that clean solvents, stuff like that? I mean, that's gonna average a couple, $200-300 a month at the minimum. You know, part of me is like, I don't wanna pay more, so I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing, because it's gonna save me 200. Currently, do we cover all the supplies? I guess was my first question.
I believe the check said we do the invoices, yeah.
So the supplies portion of it comes out of, you said we budgeted the 24 for the year. Supplies, I'm assuming, is in a different category?
Yes, it is. I can give an answer to why the change in the amount. So we looked over the number of hours that they've been putting in so far this year, and we averaged, rather than the numbers have changed. Like 1 month it was 2,900, 1 month it was 3,300, 1 month it was 38, 1 month it was 33. So we took that and we took the average over the year and we spread it out to a consistent billable amount for every month, rather than having the price change. There were more cleaning days in the month or more hours that they were putting in. So I had asked them to extrapolate an average based on what they were putting in already. And based on the numbers that I just told you, a 29, a 33, a 38, a 33, the 35 was a average consistent number per month.
Okay, the second question I have is why Monday, Wednesday, Thursday? Why not Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
We can change that to whatever we want.
And do we need 3 times a week is too sufficient? Being I'm assuming we're not renting out any of the city hall, which used to be our income, and that was part of the deal with the school. They kind of managed that and sent us checks, which was a fantastic deal. But now that we don't receive any of that income, because we're not renting anything out, why are we cleaning so much if we're not renting out the building?
So I can give you a breakdown of what those hours are.
You know, and if we're not renting out the building, who's using the kitchen? You know, because there's specific lines for cleaning the kitchen. I mean, I can understand Thursday would be important because food shelf is on Wednesday. I'm just not trying to cut corners, but I'm trying to cut cost.
No, and that was gonna be my question, Counselor, is I know cleanliness is important in a public facility such as City Hall, but do we need 3 days a week, or could we get by with 2, or, and I don't work here every day, so I'm asking.
So the Mondays and the Thursdays are full cleaning days, where they go through the entire, entire portion. Wednesday afternoons are a touch-up day, directly right after food shelf time. And sometimes they do overlap a little bit, but food shelf does tend to be a day that creates more bathroom cleaning, and like, especially in the winter time, coming and going the hallway. So they come in after food shelf, do a quick touch-up, and then on Thursday, they come in and do a complete cleanup. And so so Wednesday is not a full day, long and short.
Okay, so everything on this list then isn't happening 3 days a week?
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay. And I guess Counselor DeWall's point, would we be better off just doing what we've been doing without a contract? Paying the 2,800 1 month, and the 35 1 month, and the 38 1 month, and 29 1 month, and it's tough to budget that way. I know Counselor DeWall wanted the contract, right? Because it's, you know what you're paying for then, and everything's in writing, but.
Well, it was a way to fix the cost over a period of time, which allows us an easier number to budget with. You know, now we have to go back and look at our existing contract with the school. You know, I'm assuming in there, it states in there that we are in charge of cleaning. And I'm assuming we have a monthly fee set already.
I think they pay an annual amount.
It's a monthly, but they probably only pay us one time a year. You know, overall, the cost of doing business is, I understand it, it's gone up. It's hard to get people that even want to work, and they do a good job.
Is there something in the school contract that keeps us from being able to come and say, we gotta renegotiate this at the end of the year? Or, I mean, everybody knows the costs of everything are going up. Do we have to wait till the end of '23 to talk to them, or is there any kind of opener where we can go back in and say, you know, our costs have gone way up for cleaning and things, and we're gonna need you to pay more?
I think everything's negotiable. I mean, we could always ask them if they're willing to sit down and reopen it, but I've never seen the contract, so I don't know what it reads.
I don't remember what it was like.
And I do agree, you're right, we aren't doing the building rentals like we used to, but my fear in that is if we don't retain the service and we do start renting again, then we're just gonna have to add it back in again. And we could collect that with the rental fees. To me, right now, with the way the heating and the cooling system is in this building right now, we're not rentable. We get complaints from but even the few things that we have here, it's either too hot or too cold. We have no way of regulating right now. If you start renting on weekends, city employees are gonna be getting calls all weekend long about it's too hot in this room, how do we turn it down, it's too cold in this room. And until we get control of the controls, I don't think it's wise to rent out.
Well, I think they're doing a good job. I kind of agree with Troy, you know, maybe we should have them come on Mondays and Fridays or something and have a little touch-up day on Wednesday. And I don't know, maybe we're to the point right now, we're seeing it in our wages here in the city, everything's going up. I don't know if we need to I don't know if we're gonna find anybody cheaper to do it. You know, I think they seem to be doing a good job. And I don't know, maybe we just are gonna have to bite the bullet and try to, you know, if we gotta pay more, we gotta pay more. I think we're gonna see that in a lot of things over the next year or so.
They are doing a good job. You can see the grout in the tile, I know that.
And we pay for the materials because what, we require special cleaning materials
So-
that they don't use?
yeah,
Or what
so
seems
we-
unusual that we're paying for
We pay
the
for.
service and the materials?
Yep, we pay for the paper products, so bags and paper towels and those things. But as far as their actual cleaning supplies, the cleaner that they use, they provide that.
Okay.
Let me just double check that. They have a specific product that there was a little bit of cleaning supplies in the beginning that we purchased. This is too where my viewpoint, you guys are going to love this because you can dig down and we have these questions. It's very easy to find the invoices and just pop them up on your. The last invoice did include $45 in cleaning supplies. But that's for the actual cleaning
Toilet
product,
paper,
not,
bags, stuff
yeah.
like that.
we, yeah.
We can cancel it at any time. I like that 30 days written notice.
To me, it's just when I read 3, the second part, materials and supplies, it is a responsibility for the contractor to purchase normal materials and supplies to be reimbursed by the city. I mean, it's kind of saying they're responsible for it, but we're responsible for paying for it. So I'm confused. To me, it would be all normal materials and supplies will be provided by the contractor. Anything above and beyond
I,
should be approved by our administrator.
and we can suggest that change. I think more of is, I don't want to be, or my office having to be ordering cleaning supplies for them. Was if you need something, you order it, you take care of it. Whereas before, you know, we were constantly placing orders for cleaning supplies. It was more putting that workload on them rather than us having to do it.
I think if maybe we went back and asked them if we could change that to, we'll pay for anything above and beyond cleaning supplies. You know, they provide all the cleaning supplies, but we'll handle the paper towels and the toilet paper and that kind of supplies. Because that should be our responsibility. They shouldn't be providing us with that. They're here to clean, not.
No, anything that's required as a cleaning product
Yeah.
is their responsibility. Garbage bags, paper towels, toilet paper, that is our responsibility.
Right.
That's where I draw the line.
Right. So maybe if we could just reword number 3 to reflect that.
And then I think we need to dive in with the school year ending and their new budget starting July 1, because they don't go calendar. We need to renegotiate that cost, because right now, the only people that are renting is that end.
And when we open back up for renting, Administrator Rich, we will address the rental fee, correct?
Yeah, I think we have to, yep.
Yeah.
Which brings, are we still receiving those rental checks, even though it's over at the PAC? 'Cause I believe part of the deal was we receive everything.
The only events that are going on right now are just community ed classes. Which that's the part of their operation.
Yeah, see, the big factor that changed this, which gives us the opportunity to change the language, is we had a nominal fee, which was extremely cheap, and it could be raised. But we used that to cover, it wasn't like to make revenue producing, but it was to cover our overhead and keep it cheap to the citizens. And without having that revenue coming in, it means we gotta pull it from some other part of the budget, which means something else isn't gonna happen. Something else, in my mind, is gonna be $20,000 short this year. Where do we find it? And that's later to be discussed, but part of that could be negotiated in that school contract.
Well, and I think now would be an appropriate time to discuss the budget, because we got to amend it, right, in order to make this work. So Counselor DeWall had a question, I don't know if he had a question, but he just mentioned that where's the money going to come from out of the budget? Do we have an idea of that?
Well, I'm guessing I know where it's gonna come from, but that's, I don't want it to come. I mean, we can't keep tapping into that.
Well, my suggestion was to reduce some of the major repair, some of the building controls. We've already purchased a lot for this year already with the new control panel and to hold off on any new projects for the, actually, Johnson Controls is behind on 2 projects with us right now. We're waiting on the boiler one to get finished up. The control panel needs to be installed. So we've already authorized a lot of work to be done to this building already, and I would suggest holding off for the rest of the year, barring emergencies, to make up for that, the cleaning cost difference.
You can get a few thousand from the fireworks we're not spending this year, right? Out of your budget or whatever. it is.
Our budget.
Our budget.
Our budget.
Except that it says mayor funds.
Quick question on that. I like the idea, Administrator. Regarding the boilers, though, are we settled on that? Is that, so we don't know, we may need money to repair those or replace those?
So they've already authorized the claim to repair them, and I am requesting for full replacement. So we're in a settlement phase right now.
But if they stick to their just a repair, is that costing us any more? No. So we wouldn't need the money in that?
No.
Did we ever, budgetary, and I can't remember, did we ever approve the air handling on the police side? Has that been resolved?
That is not, and they were hoping that they could get, before we approved that, we were going to get control with the control thing.
Right.
With the control box, and then see where we're at. If that doesn't solve it, then we look at air handling.
But if, just, that's a real important one that we have to, because it's a double effect on that side of the building. They don't get enough cool air, they don't get any air blowing. So they don't get enough heat when they need it, and they don't get enough cool when they need it. And that's a 24-hour shop.
I have heard from them reports on that side that the improvements that we have been doing have helped. They're actually seeing air movement, and heat was not a complaint this winter at all. There was a little bit of cooling complaint early on in the season, but that was taken care of quickly and easily. So it's getting better.
So a rough estimate on dollars that we have left in that aspect of the budget.
There was 100,000 budgeted.
We've spent,
I would say probably about 60.
and we need, what, 20 to complete the cleaning? So that still gives us a little, gives us 20 to, if something comes up.
I'm comfortable with that plan.
I would be okay with that.
Council comfortable with that plan? Pulling money out of the, I don't know, what do you call that? Building repair?
Repairs.
Building repair fund and transferring in for general cleaning? Councilor Benson?
How many hours a week are spent cleaning? During those 3 days?
You can have other discussions while I look this up, because it's
I
going
know
to
when
take
I
some.
got here today, when I got back here today, they were here cleaning. That was probably about 4:30, and I haven't seen them lately, but they just left a little bit ago, so.
But how many people are we talking about?
It looked like 3 were here today.
I'm gonna just, is it okay if I?
Yes, Councilor Johnson.
$42,000 is, it's a lot of money. And it's a big increase, but I'm wondering if it's, you know, I just kind of did the math quickly. That's paying an employee $20 an hour, full-time. Now, can't we, you know, I'm just, again, looking at this discussion-wise, is it doesn't include benefits, obviously. But, you know, could we go to some of our part-time employees and see if they wanted more hours or something like that. We don't even have to pay them $20. I'm not sure. I'm just throwing this out there for, you know, we're still gonna have to pay for the supplies, but I don't know.
The hard part with that, we tried to do it in-house, and we tried to hire helpers part-time, and it just,
Things weren't getting cleaned.
they weren't getting cleaned as good and as thorough. And they call in sick, and you got an event coming that evening or that next morning, and things aren't manicured, so then you gotta pull staff that have other duties to do to try to get it done. It was a battle to try to recruit for that. It just wasn't,
And just to be clear, it wasn't city staff that was doing the cleaning. It wasn't our employees that weren't doing a thorough job. It was
no.
people that we hired though, outside of a cleaning company, and
Crews are managing them when they don't show up, or doing it when they're not here.
I agree. It was that way when I was administrator. We had one of our, like Peter Luke did it for a year or so, and nothing against any of those people, but it wasn't done as well. And I agree with you. You had to worry about conflicts. Next thing you know, somebody's not here, and you need to get things done. It's nice to have a company that you know is gonna show up and they're gonna do a good job, and you can rely on them,
And Counselor Johnson, if I could just speak to that as well, too. It was managing staff to do that, which is very time consuming. As Megan said, it was when the job wasn't done, then other staff had to step in, and you were way overpaying another staff member to clean up something that someone else should. And then the also thing is with independent contractor, if you're not happy with the service, terminating the service is a lot easier and
no hard
less
feelings.
difficult when it's not an employee versus an
And
independent
I
contractor.
appreciate all of your inputs on that. You
We
know,
did analyze that, though. I have to say that we looked at it.
And I'm gonna do what you as an administrator recommend.
You know, the best circumstance we had, and Megan, you can help me, I can't remember her name, but the gentleman that would come in that was kind of being supervised by a gal,
Ken,
he was awesome. But when we lost that piece, that's when things started to turn up who was actually doing what when he couldn't be here because of COVID, because of the health risk. And we tried to get them back, and it just, that was the only positive situation that I can remember.
well, the nice thing was we weren't hardly paying him anything.
No. And
He was happy to get
He was
what
in-
little money we were giving him, and
it was something for him to do. It kept him happy and worked for us, but we just don't have that situation anymore.
And with the times now, I mean, like I said earlier, cleanliness is a big part of any business now with everything that's going on. So not only for our employees' safety, but the general public coming on, we need to have a clean, presentable building. And this company is doing a great job, so.
Counselor Benson, to your question, just looking over, and very brief, looking over the math, it looks about 10 to 12 hours a week, but that's with 3 people in those hours.
So what's council's pleasure on this one? Do we want to wait and see what the cleaning supply language comes back as? Do we want to move forward with it if the cleaning language is anything above cleaning supplies that we're responsible for? What's council's thoughts?
To me, it's a little loose, materials and supplies. I'd like to clean that up so that it's defined a little better. And I'm not saying you have to go alphabetical order, but once again, the toiletries, the hand towels, the garbage bags, I see that as our responsibility. But any liquid cleaning agent, unless it's a specialty, I know they do certain things annually. I don't know, waxing the floor or the tile or something like that, you know, that's a little different, but the 409, for lack of a better word, for a cleaning
Windex,
agent,
bleach.
I understand, yeah.
should be their responsibility.
Well, would council be all right putting this under unfinished business and revisiting it next meeting when we get that language cleared up? Need a motion to put it on unfinished? No.
Well, we do have June 1st.
Well, I mean, they're
On
kind
their
of, are they under a time crunch where we need this?
No.
I'm
Oh, we are.
assuming they're
Okay.
gonna.
I was just.
They're just gonna
Sorry.
keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
and-
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mayor?
Counselor Benson.
So I'm to understand if we look at that 10 to 12 hours a week times 3 people, approximately 36 hours. Just wanted to make sure I got that math.
Times 52 times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion before moving on? Hearing none, we'll move to 6E, Ryan McCarthy softball tournament. So in your packet was the event application for the Ryan McCarthy softball tournament to be held July 29th through 31st.
Excuse me, was that in your packet? I think it
Well,
was,
maybe-
yeah, I
maybe
don't
it
think it was in
was. No, it
council
wasn't.
packet because we were still bringing it to public safety and liquor control.
My bad, I have it.
Yeah, I pulled it up. Would you like me to summarize?
Go for it, Administrator Rich.
Okay, so the Ryan McCarthy Super Draft Softball Tournament is scheduled for July 29th through the 31st. They expect about 250 attendees. They will not be using outdoor lighting on the fields. They'll not include any amusement rides, inflatable structures, no fireworks. There'll be no musical entertainment, no amplified sound, no construction of a stage. They do not have licensed security, which was not either recommended by public safety. They will be serving food. They'll be getting their food permit through the state of Minnesota. They will be serving liquor, beer, which was why it went to liquor control as well. Their caterer is the Beacon Bar, and the Beacon Bar has received their caterer's permit, which requires them, they can do that in another jurisdiction if they go through the state of Minnesota. I'm trying to think of anything else. They will be providing the insurance. They haven't provided it yet, but that was one of the contingencies of public safety and liquor control, that they approved the recommendation of this event based on getting insurance. And they
And
will
that-
be using both fields,
That's what, and the baseball or just the 2 softball fields? I can't recall.
just the 2 softball
Just the 2
fields.
softball, okay. So you heard the recommendation from Public Safety and Liquor Control to approve the event application contingent upon providing insurance. Counselor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's 250 people are expected. How many teams?
12 to 14, we were told.
And are these local or are they from all over? Because I was just wondering, coming into town, staying in the motels, or
I
if they're just-
believe that it's regional.
Yeah, there may be a couple teams that are, or players from teams that are coming from the Twin Cities, or there'll probably be some hotel rooms that are booked because of it. But I wouldn't say a whole team, maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't assume a whole team is coming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So again, you heard the recommendation from Public Safety and Liquor Control to approve the event application for the Ryan McCarthy softball tournament being held July 29th through 31st, contingent on insurance. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. 6F, Blight Special Assessment Program Policy Draft. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. This special assessment program was brought up some time ago in response to blight remediation that might be expensive for homeowners. Typically in the past, the blight remediation is assessed onto the property taxes and then made payable in 2 equal installments on their property taxes. And as we were negotiating one special assessment, the idea of coming up with a program, so one, it's manageable for people who have had blighted structures removed to pay for them, and then 2, to make the process clear and transparent for future blight removals. So this is a draft of a program. I'm obviously open to discussions. You have the abatement process, current code in your packet, as well as the proposed program.
Would there need to be changes made to the current code if we adopted this policy? Do you know? And
Yeah.
it's probably something we'd have to look at.
I'll look at the nuisance abatement provisions, but off the cuff, I don't think so, because the nuisance abatement sets of ordinances just pertain to what we do before we spend the money on a nuisance abatement. If I looked at the policy, I thought it was very good.
As did I, and I think it will maybe open the door for some funds coming our way from CDBG for light purposes, maybe. Doesn't hurt our chances, but. And I know that with the snow melting, we are getting a lot of phone calls regarding blight, so having something in place, and this is more specific to tear down, right? Not just blighted properties, but removal, abatement process, but I think it'd be good to have something like this, and it makes it a little more user-friendly for the citizens that are dealing with that.
Well, do we want to look at it and bring our comments back to the next council meeting?
If that's what council would like to do.
Well, I should look at the existing ordinances to see if it's consistent. I suspect it is.
Okay. Put it under unfinished, and council all right with that, having Attorney Bray look over the language, making sure it aligns with city code, and then if council has any questions, suggestions, or comments, they can be referred to Administrator Rich with those.
Yeah.
Councilor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If the city does receive community development block grants for blighted and nuisance abatement, how would that affect this program?
That's however we would structure the grant application to CDBG. I know in some past blight CDBG applications, they've been like a 50% or a third, 50% or a third loan, third grant, third third loan, grant. I can't remember what the other third forgiveness. So if we were ever to do an app to CDBG, we definitely consider this as part of it. I would think that if we did get a blight program through CDBG, that would be a more preferable way to go than, first that we would explore avenues through a blight program before we did a special assessment.
I was just wondering if there would be some language that could be incorporated in here so we can memorialize just in case we did get that CDBG funding.
I see what you're saying,
and
laying a foundation down for a program.
Yeah.
And I maybe speak, go ahead,
Oh,
Councilor.
and whether it just might be a fund that we set up to help support this program.
And that was gonna be my recommendation, because it's gonna cost the city up front to tear down structures. So if we got money from CBDG, if we could have a fund for blighted properties and use that money for the upfront cost of the city, and then let the homeowner pay that back. Is that, and I don't know if that's possible, but that would be my way of looking at it. at it.
Yeah, because the city has already incurred a bunch of expenses up front for at least the last 4 that we've done. It'd be nice to keep that pool solvent so we can continue to help and clean up the city.
But, yeah, memorializing the language would be a good idea for that, yeah, absolutely. Any other discussion before we move that to unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move on to 6G, Highway 2 project. Counselor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I happened to notice that the Highway 2, the MnDOT Highway 2 project is kind of now on the books. 10.8 million, true, it starts off by Midway Road and comes in, but for Proctor, you know, it's the resurfacing and the drainage, bicycle pedestrian improvements, intersection safety. So since it is 4 years out, to start planning for it now, perhaps getting the businesses energized, looking for, again, the community development block grants for storefront improvements. But this, you know, it's far enough out where I think we could do some interesting things if we could get, you know, the grants and fundings for the downtown businesses. And not just along I-35, but, or not I-35, not Highway 2, you know, go out a block or two.
No, my understanding on that project was a mill and overlay on that. I know when Mick, along with the city, did the transportation study, they had some images along Highway 2 and coming into town. If I remember correctly, MnDOT was saying that wasn't something they were looking at doing. It's always a possibility, right? But from my understanding, the project is just a mill and overlay, but I could be wrong. That may have changed now. But I agree, getting on board with it right from the get-go and giving our input and ideas would be a good idea.
Even a mill and overlay will spruce up the road somewhat, and with the Second Street project in the works, that, you know, if we could tie it all in together, it would be an advantage. So that's it.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding the Highway 2 project? That was 2026, I believe, Councilor Benson, correct?
Correct. 2026. Starts in May, ends in August.
Perfect. Thank you.
For a mere 10.8 million.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. No.
I thought it was 13.
Well, I didn't go down.
No, it was about $1 million a mile, 13, because it's like 12.8 miles to the end, and it was a $13 million
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, it'll be a spendy one by 2026, I'm sure. Hearing no other discussion, we will move to 6H, sand salt bid. Administrator Rich.
This was not in your packet. The bids were just opened on Thursday, and we needed time to analyze the results and come up with a recommendation. You can see the estimates, the engineer estimates, and where the bid actually came in. The big surprise to us was the cost of the maintenance garage. We had estimated high anyways because we knew that building costs were high as it is. We estimated for about $275 per square foot. The bid came in at over $350 per square foot with current construction costs. This is a large gap in our engineer estimates. We did look at some value engineering of taking some things out of the building. I'm not a fan of that, especially after we've had committee meetings and we've made clear, calculated decisions on what we wanted in the building, and then to start pulling things out, you get a product that you're not happy with. So based on this, our recommendation is to reject the bid and rebid out the project in 2 separate scopes of work. One is for the utility work, the site prep work, to the sand salt facility. That would not jeopardize our funding from bonding. We're still in line to receive that. We're well within the deadline. And then from everything from putting the slab for the garage, the utility work, the site prep to the sand salt facility, we've already approved that from Greystone. But then at a later date, after we've had time to talk to contractors, bidding out the actual construction of the garage. This could do a couple things. It could make the scope of the project smaller for some smaller contractors to just do the stick-built garage rather than all the site prep and all the utilities and things that go along with that. So based on these results, it's our recommendation to reject and rebid out. In the short of it, we may not be getting a garage this year if building costs continue to be the way they're at.
So can you go over that again, Administrator Rich, when you say rebid, what's the two scopes of work? The one is just the building of the garage.
Just the building of the garage, correct?
So the first scope would be all the slab work for the garage.
Correct.
And then all the utilities and dirt work and what have you.
Yep.
Okay.
And you would get a new sand storage facility to be in line with the MS4. We're just putting off the construction of the garage.
Okay. Does council understand that? So you heard the recommendation from Administrator Rich. Is there a motion to rebid this project in different phases as presented? Councilor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor
I was just
Benson.
curious, knowing that things are higher, how the engineer's estimates could be that far off?
It was a surprise to all of us. They already like I said, I reported they estimated high. The normal at the time was $225 per square foot. They estimated high, and it came in at over $355 per square foot. It's not a fancy building. I mean, it's
Just a garage.
it's just a garage.
And timelines all line up for us to rebid as far as,
For the sand, salt, and the site prep work. It was alarming that we only received one bid. That was odd. It could have been the scope of the project. It could have been labor. It could be supply chain issues. This just needs some time to ask some contractors why they didn't bid on it. I think regardless, you're looking at a bid that's too high.
thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 7A, looking for a motion to go into closed session regarding the purchase or sale of property per Minnesota State Statute 13V05 Subdivision 3.
Yep, it's chapter 15 of the Minnesota statutes.
Thank you, Attorney.
So moved.
Councilor Reuter made the motion. Councilor Johnson seconds that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. We'll go into closed session. Please shut your mics off. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to members' concerns. Counselor Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Tomorrow is the Board of Review, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is citizens, if they do come, will be stating their case, and traditionally we always look at the assessors and say, what do you think? And I think it's important to know that we should be the advocates for the Proctor property owners and listen to them, and we know what, they do a great job, the assessors, but I just wanted to mention that. The other thing, Mr. Mayor, Council, Memorial Day, pardon me, May 30th, going to be special this year, honoring Captains Verville and Gagne. We got a member of the 148th retired Brigadier General and a couple of F-16s that'll be doing a flyover, and that's their primary duty of the day. Duluth and Superior will get flyovers, but this is their priority. They're doing Duluth and Superior only because of Proctor. So I think that's very cool, and encourage people to attend. And the last thing, I was fortunate enough to attend a National League of Cities conference last week, and extremely enlightening, invigorating. Some of the sessions that I attended was municipal cybersecurity and threats, real world cyber threats and cyber hygiene, which is pretty important. It's amazing how many smaller cities and townships and schools get hit. Civil public engagement and discourse, how to avert liability, the importance of developing an accessible website. So it was exciting, and hopefully I'll be able to, pass along some of that knowledge to our citizens on a local level. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Reuter.
I have none.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson.
I just want to mention how cool it was last Wednesday with the open house and the fire department and Chief Hellquist, and he was beaming from ear to ear with how proud he was, and there was a lot of firefighters there doing their thing, showing off, and it was nice to see Administrator Rich there with their couple of, I think they were grandkids, correct? I mean, they were running around and in the water and all that kind of stuff, but it was cool, and I think our city needs to be proud of that.
Thank you. Counselor DeWall.
At this time.
And sometimes it stinks going last, because Counselor Benson and Counselor Johnson hit on all the things I was going to discuss, but the local Board of Appeals is 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, so we got that. And Counselor Johnson, I did make it to that ladder truck ceremony. I got to watch him push the engine in. It was a neat event. I got there real late, but I was able to attend. But it was a neat celebration, and the community should be proud. So, other than that, as Counselor Benson mentioned, the Memorial Day event, it should be a fun event to remember the lost soldiers we have, and please attend if you can.
And you'll be there doing the welcome.
I will be there. I guess I just learned I will be doing a welcome speech as well, so I'm honored. That is it for me. Administrator Rich. Thank you. Attorney Bray. Thank you. With that, we'll look for a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $103,625.60. Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Counselor DeWall made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you.